Hi Aquarius, I have a few things to share before we get into your March 2025 Pisces season reading. So all information to work with me one-on-one is below as usual, where you can find personal reading info, my website link, scheduling link, payment options link, and the Patreon link that has all of this. Plus, if you'd like your extended, where we go more in depth into the reading that we do here. The readings now here with me and you will be focusing on love and money. So I'll do specifically what's happening with love, specifically that comes up about money, and then we get more in depth into the extended reading, which again is on the Patreon link below. I have also put out a lunar eclipse all signs reading that is out already. That goes right to Patreon as well. And I talk about the metaphysics of the full moon. So the moon, Virgo, like what? Virgo, and Mercury, because Mercury rules Virgo. So all of that is out there already. These eclipses for Aquarius risings will be in your 2nd and your 8th house. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about love first. Aquarius and love. 2 of Pentacles. This could mean a few things. You could be going back and forth about your responsibilities at this time in your relationships, in love, what you feel responsible for, or you may be making a decision based off of where your values are now. Now, your value and your self-worth are going to be a highlight of and a theme of the next 2.5 years for Aquarius risings, because of Pisces being in your 2nd house of your resources, but it's also self-worth. And then that reflects in your 8th house of other people's resources. There's so much more in the 8th house as well. There's a lot of healing that's involved there. So this may be kind of a foreshadowing of the overall theme that's happening in the next couple years. Well, of course, because we're right next to the eclipse too. It's basically an eclipse reading. So you might be going back and forth. You may be weighing out your value, what's valuable to you specifically on a personal level. Ooh, more Pentacles. And yourself. And I know I brought up money in these houses, but it's also about your self-worth. So in love, you may have become very aware of these feelings of how you see yourself. You maybe have been gaining even more confidence. You may feel now even more than ever the shift of Pluto going into your sign, and you feeling the changes happen. You're feeling like you may want to speak up more for your value. And because you're willing to do that, because that may have felt for some of you uneasy to do. Maybe that's why it's been back and forth, back and forth. Maybe you don't know how to say it. Maybe this is new to you. Maybe some of you may be in situations where like this is where the growth is in your relationships and in love. So then I'll talk about single and if you're with someone. But this is about you. The growth for you is communication. And it's interesting because Venus is in retrograde. Aries did not come out, but Venus is in retrograde in your 3rd house. And there will be more entering Aries this year. And then right now there's going to be back and forth between Aries and Pisces during retrogrades for Mercury, Venus, and then in the future, we'll talk about that when we get there, Saturn and Neptune. And we don't always get retrogrades back into another sign. We're having that with Mars as well. Mars is now direct in Cancer, and it will go back into Leo like we had a few months ago. I'm sharing all of these because I know that as an Aquarius, you may go look and you may be interested in learning a little bit more about that. But really what this is doing for you in these areas of your life is you've become aware of what you need to say now, and it may feel uncomfortable. You may feel like the Page of Pentacles, where you feel maybe like you're growing into a different version of yourself and you need to speak up for it, right? It's you knowing and saying how you feel. And maybe you've tried not speaking up, but this is what's going to regulate you. This is what's going to even relax you more. Not that you're in a relaxing period because Pluto is in your sign. However, this is helping you change in areas that are your growth edges. And if you're single, you may find yourself asking, if you're not used to asking, I'm not going to assume who's watching this, my apologies. But if you're not used to being the one to approach someone or being the one to ask the questions in the relationship or to be more vocal at this time, you may find yourself doing that. You may find yourself maybe meeting someone halfway more, or being the person that is in more demanding or commanding place. You may feel just so much more comfortable asking for your needs and desires. And that's what this Two of Pentacles is. It's like you've been a certain way for a while, and now you're changing, and you may continue to change. And now it's time to get comfortable with being able to vocalize where you're at in this moment, at this time, for this time period in your life, okay? And so with a partner, if you are in a relationship, this may also be the case. It's interesting because Leo is also going through something similar, which is your opposite or counterpart, whatever you want to call them. They are your opposing sign. You may be figuring out what for all this time, what is actually really important to you now that you've sensed the shift within you. And what this eclipse is going to help you do is release any other, I wouldn't say I guess attachment is kind of like a codependency. So wherever you find a codependent nature and you find comfort in that, you're challenging yourself, or you may be finding more independence, because if you're seeking a different outcome, you may have to then approach this differently. It may invite the person to also do the same, and or realize that the way that you're changing may not be compatible with the other person. The ultimate thing here, there's just so much and I can't get, and it's like, Mercury will be going retrograde soon too, which is interesting. And then the moon, I think it's just like amplified. Is that you'll just feel more like yourself regardless. It's like you finally get something out of you, whether single or in a relationship or in your relationships in general, that you've maybe been needing to say, and not that you're stuck on this opinion or approach. You just really need to let it out and have the conversation. You really need to let it out and not be afraid or scared. Especially if this isn't insecurity, it's time to let yourself expose how your self-worth and money are tied. And we'll talk about money next, but a lot of pentacles came out in the love portion. So there might be a lot of times what's happening in love is teaching us what's also happening with our money. So if love is good and everything's good here, but there's always drama with money, or drama in areas of career, drama meaning like heightened emotions, always something going on, it's time to learn from your relationship and say like, okay, how do I bring the calmness of who I am here into this? Or if I'm able to speak up at work more, how do you speak up how can you bring that into your relationship? You know what I mean? Why are you more comfortable with your self-worth in this area than this area? And if you're having trouble with both, right, that means that there might be even more reward on the other side, an even bigger lesson at this time for you to end the narrative of not speaking up and advocating for yourself, especially if you want to heal that specifically. Because if not, and you like leave it and go away, it will eventually show up in your field again for you to address it. Ghosting, it's different finding peace than ghosting the situation or leaving and thinking that's going to resolve. It's like traveling and thinking if you have problems and you travel, everything's going to be better. The only way that's going to be better is if you really were meant to travel and leave. And that's if that was exactly what was going to help, is actually leaving. But usually your problems show up, right? Or you'll attract people who attract the same kind of issues around you, even if you're going away for a moment. It's just the energy that you're carrying, because it's just saying avoid, right? We know that flight is a trauma response, so if we're going to keep going along with this is you not doing flight. It may look more like fight, but the internal fight, right? Instead of it being an external fight, it's an internal fight that you're needing to have with yourself in order to get it out into the world, in order to get out of you. It starts here, and then you decide, time to be vulnerable, time to grow. Because there's so much value to what you have to say. And that's the Three of Pentacles. There's so much value. It creates so much energy. The buzzy word, so much magnetism, so much authentic, raw power and energy to you. That this love, no matter whatever's happening with it, single or with someone, is really just allowing you to be you. And I think ultimately, Aquarius, isn't that, that's what we all want. And now I think you're kind of like, there's just a lot clearing up. A lot gets washed away at this time, so it seems, but it's going to need your effort and energy. All right. I can't wait to talk more about that already. All right, so we're going to talk about money. Let's talk about money. I like this. First two cards out are Justice and Page of Wands. And then we have Three of Cups in reverse, the Hierophant in reverse, and the King of Swords upright. It looks like you find such a diplomatic, as if it took no effort at all, way to perhaps say something that's needed to be said. There could be, whether it's a Taurus around you or just you breaking through traditional, and that's what I'm getting here, you breaking through traditional ways of being, where you address in a very skillful way maybe gossip or shit talk that's been happening about you in your place of work or money. And this is a few things. So this is where I'm starting first. And what this does is solidify the discipline you've had to the mentality and the confidence that you're gaining even more and more and more. And if with the Page of Wands, it's saying that it's external, that the magnetism that you feel gives you the energy to continue to advocate for yourself. And that is what we want to do with this energy right now. This has come up and it's been a thread throughout the readings where it's like, there's a lot happening, there's a lot changing, but with this energy right now, especially if you want to listen to the Schumann resonance, like anyone who has that, there's a few people that I follow, and we have switched, but we have switched timelines and energies, and you'll feel more of an uplifted energy at this time. However, it doesn't mean that your past cuts off. But with this energy that you have from addressing and becoming yourself even more and like feeling more safe, the more that you advocate for yourself and the more that you continue to do it in the places that are really important for you, the shift happens so quickly, and the confidence that comes along with it, but also the karma. I think ultimately this is about the confidence and breaking free from a cycle where, you also know what it's like to be this person. There's compassion there. And it's also something else. So you may also, Justice is also Libra. So it could become very clear that whatever, it can become very clear to you that this balance that you're finding in your relationship, this peace, more peaceful place, more creative, productive place, is making you really think about how you want to make money and continue to put yourself out there. It's been possible that you have wasted some of that energy sometimes by participating in the gossip, by participating in conversations that are really a projection of how you feel about yourself. Like, this might be ultimately what you're doing, and you get a hold of that and realize. This is a big realization if you're having this issue, Aquarius, very air sign, just an air sign thing, right? We all do it, is that the more you avoid or the more you desire to express your creativity and be more disciplined about it, here says the King of Swords, the more that you'll have opportunities to say no to that and say yes to yourself. Because maybe from even this, or you've realized already yourself, but this is an extra reminder here, because I am a Libra and I am a Taurus, so I could be a part of this scenario, and I don't always say that, but I could be here to remind you of your power and the power of the energy that you give. And as a fellow air sign, when we desire more creativity and to do more for ourselves in the ways that make us happy, it's really important that even if gossip makes you happy, that if you haven't started or continued to create regularly, that your energy you could be just like giving away all of that energy. And that's why I like to put it that way, because what I've learned is that like then, maybe you hang out with people and you have plans to like do something creative later, and then all of a sudden you get home and you're exhausted, or like you get scattered, or you don't really want to do it, or whatever it is, and it almost stops you from, and maybe you do creativity and you've gotten comfortable with a certain medium, but you've been wanting to try something new. So take this in any context, that all that energy is being given away in that conversation when it really needs to be put into yourself. So if you're in those situations, maybe you say nothing, maybe you don't really add much anymore, maybe you redirect the conversation. Maybe you say, hey, I'm learning just like to practice not, I realize it doesn't really do anything for me when I talk about someone else. Especially if like it's not something you would say directly to their face. It's something in Kabbalah I also learned that I really love to share, and I've been sharing more recently, because love is about speech. Like there's a lot about using your voice, and Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus, and we talked a little bit about Venus too, and how that's the communication area of your chart. Aries, this is for Aquarius risings specifically, which we'll get even more into. However, if you are, and if you do feel connected to this, let's talk. So Taurus rules the throat, and so does Venus. So Venus is an accentuant, and you have both Venusian signs here at the bottom in money. What speaking up in your relationship does is that adds value to what's real, what's the reality of where you're at. You know, it's not about confusion. It's about allowing yourself to speak up in a way that's more vulnerable, not just for specific. I just had to make sure my kitty wasn't going to eat my other kitty's food. Just want to make sure. Okay, sorry. You speaking up for yourself, or you also experiencing or overhearing being talked about, maybe you experience that, and it really solidifies like, oh, like, even if I don't like that person, even if I think they're a whatever word you like to use, it's just not worth my energy. And you're someone who already feels that way, but now it's becoming like an imprint into your coding, into your switch, into your timeline, and timeline coding, energy, all of that. So even just an interaction with someone could even provoke this energy to arise for you to address. And what about Kabbalah is that when we speak, you know, they call it evil speech. At least this one teacher that I listened to and took courses from says it that way. And when we continue to roll into that, a lot of times it will come back subconsciously to sabotage us. Now, Kabbalah is like the very obvious parts of religion. It's like, it's all the subconscious, like they take the stories and make them like very simple, basically, and showing you like what the symbolism is and whatnot. And that is also tarot. So I love to bring it in with the subconscious and everything. So you may realize that through uncovering whichever one of these comes first, that uncovering all of this makes you just so much stronger in your mind. You know, even if you engage in talking shit every now and then, you're extremely aware of your consequences and like what energy might come back at you. What they say too about it is that whatever, like say you judge someone's weight, they say that your metabolism starts to slow down. And I remember being like, I haven't done that. I don't really do that. And I don't. I don't think it's cool to judge other people. I have a long history, but we don't have to talk about that right now. And mostly it was upon myself. However, it's like whatever you judge someone for, you almost like are almost always gonna go through. And I don't like using always or never, but I've experienced so much karma. And that's also what Libra and Cancer and sometimes Saturn often represent karma. So justice can be a form of karma. Is like you see the good karma almost instantaneously the moment you shut this down. And it could be with a Taurus. It could be that you really need to see that could be the cause or the catalyst for the continuous, maybe even internal negative behavior with self or self-sabotage or whatever it is that keeps you. And the reason why I think even more so is that this is what keeps you from like remaining, if you have an issue with like remaining confident and moving forward through any habits that you don't want to have anymore, or anything that may help your health, because the 8th house is also your mental health, and 10 of Swords is this overall change. And the confidence of knowing that even just that one small thing you can shift, it's the power that you bring back to yourself. And it gives you so much energy and momentum to then continue and keep going, and gives you so much insight about yourself in this area of your life. And I'll pull this out, and especially of like how you grew up or where you came from deeply impacted you. But it was like Seven of Swords is at the bottom, is it's like a circus. It was like a very stressful place, so you've always had to keep certain things together, and that's affected. And you're like, whoa, I thought we were talking about money. Well, yeah, this all has to do with money. It's the energy. So you need to address something that has long affected your self-worth, which also affects your pocket or your bank account, whatever it is. And it's not easy, but it's coming around to say that you will bring this power back to yourself, Aquarius, and it's time. It is time. What a reading. All right. Can't wait to get into the next part. We'll start with money because the bottom of the deck. We'll start with the monies, and we have a lot of information already, and we'll see you there. All information is below. There's readings out. Check out Patreon, and we'll see you next month.